Well, there are few very famous names in Iranian popular music of the last century, and most of them can be recalled with just one name. Think Abi or Daryush or Gugush or Haider. My featured guest today is an Iranian American musician and the son of a prominent Iranian artist who could also be identified with that one name, the late singer, songwriter, musician, and composer Habib. Take a listen to this.
من مرد تنهای شبم، مهر خاموشی و لبم، تنها و غمگین رفته ام، دل از همه گسسته ام، تنهای تنها، غمگین و رسوا، تنها و بی فردا منم، تنهای تنها، غمگین و رسوا، تنها و بی فردا منم، من مرد تنهای شبم.
Guessing a lot of you out there remember that song or know it from 1977, Mard Tanhoye Shab. That's Habib. Habib's musical journey began with a profound interest in the guitar, and by 1977, he rose to fame with the release of that hit record, Mard Tanhoye Shab, featuring the renowned title track and another popular song, Shah Loye Man. This success was followed by his second album, Salam Hamsaye, in 1978, and Habib's significant contributions to Iranian music then solidified his legacy as a professional and influential musician, both in Iran and in the diaspora. He passed away in 2016, leaving behind a lasting impact on the Iranian music scene. And notably, at the time of his death, he could not pursue his career in music inside Iran after years of being exiled and having his career derailed in its prime. Well, to discuss the story, the sadness, and the immense legacy of Habib, it's an honor to be joined by his son, Muhammad, today. Muhammad was born in Tehran and raised in Los Angeles. He worked with his father on his own debut album called Jabuni in the early 2000s. He's a musician, a singer, and Muhammad has also been very active on social media since the beginning of the uprising last year, dedicating a few songs he created to the women life freedom movement in Iran. And right now, I'm joined by Mohammad Mohebian in Los Angeles. Hello, sir.
Hello, dear Jian. Thank you for hosting me in your show. Thank you for having me here.
It's a great pleasure to have you, Mohammed. Thank you for doing this. And I have to say from the top, approaching an interview like this, I would often feel trepidatious about asking someone who has their own career, their own life, about their famous parent, especially to lead the interview this way. But you've said you really want to speak about your dad, so we've titled this episode The Legacy of Habib. Tell me about wanting to talk about him.
Yeah, well, I owe everything to him. Everything I've learned, I owe to him. Yeah, just growing up with him, seeing his journey, being part of his journey, and the originality of the person he was. I have nothing else to talk about but him, frankly.
He was very famous, and he was masterful as a songwriter and musician and a singer, but he's not always cited amongst the biggest names in Persian popular music. You've told me that you think that's partly because he was a loner, partly the way he led his life. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, you hear it in Maratana Shab too. It could be a double meaning, Maratana Shabam. When he rose in Iran, he rose by himself. He had bands that he would play with, just in Tabriz and Rezaiya, just way before he became popular. And after he broke Maratana Shab, he was just, he wasn't so much into, the getting together, party Bazi and that kind of stuff. He was just kind of in his own world, an introvert artist. And that's all that was important for him, just to create and to give out. Nothing else was, really made any difference or caught his attention.
It's oxymoronic, isn't it? It's a contradiction to be a popular performer who takes the stage and also an introvert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's how it was, and that's even when we came to the United States in the mid '80s. I remember, yeah, he experimented 2 albums, Hamraz being one of them, Khoshid Khanum being another one, which were kind of poppy. They were um, the diaspora in LA at that time. They encouraged him to do that. They said, "This is what works right now." Those sad songs or songs about social issues and stuff, that people don't want to listen to that here. People just want to, have a good time. And, it got to where my father just felt uncomfortable with having done that, even though a lot of those songs, Hamraz, Sadai Faryad, they're all different still. They are the 6/8 kind of poppy, but they're still his stories. They're still
Yeah.
stories of, they're still kind of sad. He couldn't leave that. But yeah, after that, I remember he left the valley where the community was condensed, and we went to the South Bay, and he just stayed there and did the recording in the room. He had a friend named Lou Varoujan, Lebanese Armenian, who's still in Hollywood. He did all his recordings with him. He didn't even want to, he had experienced some things as well uh, that weren't, that would break a sensitive heart maybe. And so, yeah, he just stayed true to his word until I came along, and I was, for me, he came back in the scene kind of and became poppy just to, just for me.
Let me get to all of that. Let me get to all of that because it's a rich and interesting story. But
Where to start and end.
well, it's okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, is it fair to say? I mean, even starting back to the 1970s, let alone later on in LA, et cetera, is it fair to say that Habib didn't play the game, if you will, the music industry game?
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. I mean, that's what I've always seen. That's what I've always seen. Same thing with Farhad, same thing with can't remember names, but there are some songwriters, Feridun Furugi, Kuroshi Agmai. Yeah, pretty much all the ones that are creators, it seems like.
سرداد در سکوتی آوای بی نوایی پیچد در آسمان ها ناله های جدایی گوید به من دل من تا کی در انتظاری دیگر نمی آید باز فریاد بی وفایی.
Where did he tell me a bit about what his inspirations were? Obviously, Iran before the revolution was a different place and time. He's born in the late 1940s. He's growing up in the 50s and 60s. I understand he was heavily influenced by Western pop, like the Beatles, right?
Beatles. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. First and foremost, Beatles, John Lennon. I would hear him sing all, songs that, I still hear him, today on, in American stations and stuff, oldies and rocks, oldies. And that's where his influence came. And that's what his music became. He became a new genre of like country rock, which was, it's his own school, you could say, in Iranian music. And yeah, that's what it was.
He definitely
That's what
stands out. I mean, one of the reasons why he really stands out is he's got this remarkable voice, which is it almost defies anybody. Like it's like a career liability to try and cover a Habib song because then you have to kind of you have to try and sing like him, which is I have this old canard, like my old joke is because my idol is David Bowie, nobody should ever cover Bowie because nobody could sing like Bowie. And I feel like there's something like that going on with Habib. And
totally.
by the 70s, he's singing on Iranian TV. This is before his military service and even before his first record. How would he describe those years, if you can remember what he would say about that time?
You know, I mean, he just all the good memories he's had of Iran, all the memories that he always shared with me of, you know, how good Iran was from that time. So yeah, that's how he described it. He just enjoyed what he was doing. And it was kind of difficult because he comes from a conservative family. So there was a little clash there, but you know, he did what he loved and he was good at it
How
and he
did,
left his mark.
how did he negotiate that? The becoming a pop you know, pop rock singer coming out of a conservative and even
You
religious
know,
family, you know.
his mother loved him and his mother was a really good mother. And it's not like it wasn't like conflict or stopping and stuff. It was just they felt something about it. So one memory that my father shares is he was singing a Beatles song in one of these TV programs that you're talking about before he became big, and his mother had seen it, and either on TV or radio. Sorry, it might be radio. And when he came back home, his mother said, what was this barking you were doing? I didn't understand anything." So that's what it was.
Do you remember what song it was?
I don't know. It was a Beatles song. It was a Beatles song.
But he would have been singing it in English, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's amazing to me because, and there's a whole historical explanation, cultural explanation around this about what happens after the revolution when music, Iranian popular music starts to shift its base to say Los Angeles, and there starts to be a cachet in singing in Persian because people, for nostalgic reasons or for identity reasons, want to hear the Persian. But there's this period in the 70s where actually a lot of Iranian singers are singing in English. There's those videos of like Ebi and Shahram Shapare singing in English.
yeah,
Quite fascinating.
yeah, yeah. That was, I mean, 70s was just, you know, when disco and rock was being born, and yeah, and it affected the world. It influenced the world in
What
music.
was Muhammad? What was Habib's special secret sauce? I mean, that the first album comes out in 1977. He, of course, not just being an interpreter, not just a singer, but he writes the songs, he composes the songs, he records. The first album's massive. It's also a victim of its timing. It comes out just a little before a revolution that would change
Yeah.
everything in Iran, including his chances of continuing to build his musical career there. But for that moment, what do you believe made him so great?
You know, his feelings, he just went, he would go deep into his feelings. Lyrics were very important for him. Um, he always said that it's lyrics that make a good melody, like someone could make a good melody out of, and it starts from there. There are a few lyrics that he had said himself, he wrote himself. He's just it's an ingredients, you know, it's an ingredients and being dedicated to doing what you love at its best, I think. Yeah.
From your observations, would he write the lyrics first then and then put music to them?
You know, it depends. I've seen him get lyrics and put melodies on it. I've seen him make a melody and like put a mer on it. He would call it mer, sher, mer. So it would be kind of like lyrics where he considered weak, and he would give those lyrics to a lyricist, and the lyricist would finish it, and he would put it in that lyricist's name. Not all, but there's a few songs that are like that. Um, yeah, it depends. Sometimes he would put the melody on lyrics, sometimes vice versa. It depends.
I want to play a bit of a song from that era, another big song, Modar. I've always felt this song was particularly compelling.
That's the story.
Tell me actually before we play a bit of it, what does it mean to you, and what's the story behind it?
Well, he was in Rezai or Tabriz right now. I'm forgetting. But you know, Azerbaijan performing, and he gets a phone call where his siblings tell him that come, you need to come back to Tehran. Your mother is not feeling well. So he understood, you know, you understand from the person's voice and how they're telling you to come, that, you know, something has happened. And that night he said this story on TV before too. He goes on stage, he performs, and actually he writes the song before he goes on stage.
Wow.
He writes Madar, yeah, and he performs it on stage. And while he's crying, there's people dancing tango. He always recalls that, and that's how it happened. And then he
Wow.
went back to Tehran and saw that.
He would have written it pretty.
That was really from his heart. And when you listen to the lyrics of Madar, it's just, we don't have anything like it. So close to the heart, and just, yeah, if you play it, you'll see. The original Madar, the first Madar.
مادر بی تو تنها و غریبم اتاق خالیم بی تو چه سردی مادر خوب و قشنگم بدون تو دل من پر دردی غذای خونه بی بوی تو هیچه صدای تو هنوز اینجا میپیچه مادر هنوزم تو دلم تموم قصه هات جوونه خالصوز که دیگه شعر آشتی مثل قدیما نمیخونه مادر شبا با صدای
You know, after you telling that story, it's always sounded like a passionate song to me, but it takes on a whole other meaning.
خالصوز که دیگه شعر آشتی مثل قدیما نمیتونه. Wow.
I still hear your voice, Mi Pichina. Yeah, I still hear your voice everywhere. And Mohammed, that's another one. That's Habib, of course, from the late 70s. That's another one where he has this remarkable, uncanny ability. And I'll talk about this later in the interview too. I want to talk about a couple of other songs that are like this, where he's walking this line between profound pathos, like sadness, and you hear that, and it almost wants to make you cry, and at the same time it's got this like jaunty melody and like the bass line, you know, and you almost go, is this a celebration? And it's this remarkable mix that is really quite unique.
Yeah. You'll find out that a lot of that in a more exaggerated way in the Hamra's album, actually. It's like Sadai Faryad. It's upbeat, Hamra. It's upbeat, but it's sad. Yeah.
Was he? It's kind of a trope of Persian, you know, pop music, at least up until a certain period, that it's gamgin, you know, that we're always writing sad lyrics and stuff. Why was that reflective of his personality, or is that just what he was attracted to in terms of how he emoted in song?
Probably both. I mean, he did have a difficult time. He did have grief that he shared, but he also, that, I guess, growing up and becoming a musician, for him, that had more meaning creating that than, you know, like a upbeat 6/8 dance song. Just he saw relating to social issues and, you know, sad events more in feeding the heart than otherwise.
You're
Difficult
born,
words.
yeah, it's okay. I mean, you're doing it. You were born in Tehran just a little while, like three or 4 years after that debut record comes out. How
Couple years.
and when do you become aware as a kid that you had this famous and talented dad?
Well, you know, when I was really small in Iran, I mean, couldn't really then because the guitars were hidden. You know, if anyone came to our house, you know, it was just, I don't remember any of it then, but I remember when we left and when we were in Turkey, um, he would in the hotel, he would sit and play the guitar and people would come around him, you know. Um, Friends of friends, you know, it was just the people in the hotel all knew each other. They were all Iranians that had escaped. And same thing in Italy. And then you know, remembering it, how I thought about it as a kid, it was, I still didn't know that my dad's this rock star. I didn't know that,
Hmm.
but I knew that people knew him, you know. I didn't think about how that far. I was really small.
Right.
But even when I came to the States, growing up, it's still kind of the same thing because it's weird, you know. Okay, we're not in Iran, you know, we're a diaspora here, and you know, I would see other singers and other artists too, and when we lived in the valley, and that was a popular apartment complex where everyone went through. um, it wasn't until I myself started with my father, and when we started touring, and I saw, you know, that's when I saw it. Yeah, that's when I really saw it. Like,
His
wow.
connection to the people,
Yeah,
or the
yeah,
people's connection to him.
yeah.
You know, I'm still stuck on the idea that you're this little kid in Iran. Um, you know, I so often think about, I mean, it's something I've been thinking about for years. I did my university graduate thesis on revolutionary Iran. You know, I think about that. Sometimes I think about what happened in 1979 as almost like a sick social experiment. You know, what happens when you change society overnight and you eliminate, you suppress all forms of culture. So this kid whose dad is a rock star doesn't even know that, isn't even
Mm.
aware of like the musical instruments aren't even allowed to be put out in the house. It's a bizarre um ecosystem that could only be created in a situation like that. Like there's no other scenario where somebody wouldn't be aware of something. I mean, even if the, you know, stars always say, "Oh, my kid doesn't think I'm cool." They, you know, but they're aware that the parents is a star, right? But you don't even have that opportunity in Iran.
Yeah, yeah. The mullahs took over, you know. And don't
What
know where
was
to go there.
what was I mean, I'll ask you about his decision to move back to Iran in 2009, but that early period, like the 80s, when you guys leave, what do you think moving to and being in America was like for your dad?
You know, I mean, when we left, I guess it was very hard for them. You know, I remember, you know, just remembering the leaving was is just going through Turkey, going through Italy. It's just you're always yearning for home. You don't have your, you know, big family around. I didn't have my grandmother anymore. For him, I remember when my mom would tell me in Turkey he would go to the ocean, you know, by himself and just, you know, pray and come back, you know, just to let his heart out. And coming to the United States, I mean, he always felt alien. He always wanted to go back home. And he thought, I think, yeah, he thought, as my mom tells me, when he left Iran, they didn't think that this curse that came after the revolution would stay so long, you know? Yeah, of course they created a
Yeah.
war and all this stuff that continues, that's keeping them. And that's what he thought. And, you know, he just, you know, it just becomes, you know, time just passes, time just passes. And he never assimilated to this society like many have, like many had to the American society. It's a little unfortunate, I think. And that's
why do you think he, I mean, to be clear, you know, even those that have made their life in Los Angeles or Vancouver or Toronto for many decades still obviously feel this pining for the Iran that was, or hopefully some Iran of the future, or whatever it is. But why do you think he could never quite feel, um could never make home in a place like Los Angeles?
because his home was Iran. His home was Iran, and you know, it's just, why can't I be in my own country? Who are these people that are not letting me live and be who I am in my own country? You know, all artists, everyone, artists, non-artists, everyone feels that to different levels.
شنیدم که چون اوی زیبا بمیرد فریبند زاد و فریبا بمیرد شب مرد تنها نشیند به موجی رود گوشه ای دور و تنها بمیرد در آن گوشه چندان غزل خواند آن شب که خود در میانه غزل ها بمیرد.
You alluded to this earlier about the music of that starts emerging out of Los Angeles in the 80s, and I've got to say, I mean, I've said this before on this program, I'm not a big fan of some of the cheesy LA Persian pop of the 80s and 90s. Like, I just never got it, you know. But while that was dominating the sound of Persian music at the time, like we said earlier, I mean, Habib didn't entirely play the game. He's got those records that come out in the 80s, but they still don't quite sound like that LA sound. How does he manage to stay out of that and for that to become the second half of his career until now, you know?
By not listening to anyone and doing his own thing. Yeah. And that's what, you know, takes you kind of out of the party. So, yeah.
I would imagine there would be pressure, though, to sort of, like, again, maybe I'm overusing the term, but to play that game in, you know, in order for career reasons, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why he came out and, you know, he started working. He started working here in LA and still supporting himself and making his albums. And that's why I say he was true to his word. Yeah, for him, making what he wanted was more important than being in the flash of the scene.
By the 1990s, he's making music that's, fair to say, widely heard again. This time he's in LA, but he puts out a popular record called Bezan Bon. Tell me about that period. We're going to play that song actually at the end of our chat, but tell me about that record from your point of view.
Yeah, this is where he went back to his heart and recording with Lou Varujan. He recorded with Lou Varujan until Jabuni. And yeah, Bezan Bon که دین را دام کردند. That's where he, you know, with full strength went into the heart of not just the Islamic Republic. These lyrics, you know, are not, yeah, they're meant for the Islamic Republic, obviously, but they're also lyrics that will always stay in time. There will always be, you know, because the Islamic Republic is like a, you know, bad dreams and a come and go. But, you know, Din Ro Dam Kardan, Bezan Bon, it's something that's always been done and could be done again in the future. And all of his lyrics that are, most of his lyrics that are, you know, social, political, are everlasting.
In that period, would you describe him as, was he bitter?
Bitter? You know, he was always a little angry. He was always a little angry. And I guess it had to do with not being home. And I guess it also had to do with, you know, doing his own thing and just not, I don't know, when you see like that, what you mentioned, like what's happening in LA, the cheesy pop and stuff like that, while, you know, Iran is the way it is, you know, we mustn't forget. So maybe that upset him a little bit.
You would have been a teenager when that record comes out.
Yeah.
Um, just a few years later, you start singing and playing with your dad. But before that, in the '90s, what was your relationship with him and his music like?
You know, I didn't. I was mostly at that time listening to his Maratana Shab and Madar album. I Yaran Man like was one of my favorite songs at that time. I was more in there, and also Hamras and that kind of stuff. I wasn't at the level to understand Bezan Bon and Kabir Bab. I'm still, you know, it's still so much to understand about these lyrics. But yeah, I was too young then to understand what that was. Uh,
Wow. So what does that mean? Not at the level to understand.
my Farsi wasn't so well, you know, and just yeah, I didn't, you know, his Monhasser Befard. You have to, yeah, just lyrics wise, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Was it always kind of an expectation or a calling that you were going to be a musician as well, that you were going to be a singer?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. When he saw me sing here and there just at home, you know, it impressed him. He would say, oh, like this or like that. But, you know, seeing how the party Bazi was, he always warned me that, yeah, this is not what you want to do. And, but, you know, we did it and it was successful. And,
When we
you
say
know, I saw good sides and bad sides of it.
right,
So,
when we say party Bazi, like what if you were trying to if you're trying to describe what that means to a non-Iranian, what would you say? I mean, there's non-Iranians listening.
there's
What
no,
what do we mean when we say party Bazi?
well, for example, you know, it's just you have so many friends and you know just you hang out with the people or whatever uh you let me just say what happened to me, then maybe that's better
Sure,
example.
sure.
um Recently in this Women Life Freedom last year, um first month I gave a song out, Faryad Kon, and you know I just immediately recorded it and just put it out. I wasn't thinking about you know do advertisement here, do that there, do that there. No, it was a very raw moment, you know, just give it out and be part of the movement. I gave it to some, I'm not going to name, to some arenas that should have, do have um, aired in the past. But when I gave this, I saw, you know, pause. And someone that I have on the inside told me that so and so has sung a song with the same title, also called Aryotkom. And they have paid for, they've done a video, they're paying for advertisement, and this and that. That's why they're not giving it out. I'm like, no, it can't be. You know, it just can't be. Now, in this time, and a few days later, I saw that theirs came out. And I was like, wow. So that kind of stuff, that's kind of extreme, maybe. But that stuff, yeah, had existed for my father as well. You know, if he's gonna be in this concert, you know, and his name is gonna be there, I don't want to, you know.
Right.
And my father was never into that stuff, you know. Even when I was singing with him, you know, so and so, they would want their name first. Hello, there was like a new Mickey Mouse singer, my father wouldn't say anything about it. You know, would let the concert guy take care of it. So by that, I mean like stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Tell me about starting to play and sing with your dad in the early 2000s. What was the what was the eureka moment where you guys look at each other and go, "All right, let's try this thing together"? Or I mean, did you approach him and say, "Dad, I want to do this with you," or did he come to you? How did it work?
You know, I was always into, well, first of all, I found his song Duruge. Man midunam ke harfat duruge. You know, I found it in a cassette, very old cassette from Iran that when he had recorded and, you know, before Maritana Shab, it's like, you could tell it's just like a little band, daka, daka, daka. But it was a really nice song. I would always play it for him. I'm like, Dad, this is really nice. Let me sing it. Let me sing it. Eventually he recorded it, but you know, when I heard it, it wasn't something I could sing. It wasn't something at that age I thought was me. You know what I mean? So, and I just couldn't sing that at that time. And so he sang it. Following that album, you know, I started telling him what I like and showing him examples where he created Javuni for me. He wrote the lyrics, he did the melody, and he did the arrangement with Lou Varushan. And that is, yeah, I sang that song and a few other songs, and then we started going around and checking the market out.
That I mean, that becomes the first album, and it does
Yeah.
very well for you. Did you? I mean, the obvious question is how do you deal with being in the shadow of somebody who's considered, legendary? I mean, yeah, there's. It seems to me that a lot of kids, there's usually when they have a famous parent, they either follow in the footsteps somehow or they go the exact opposite, like they rebel and run as fast as they can away from things because they don't want to have to compete with the live in the shadow of their famous parent. How did you deal with that?
No, we didn't have any. I mean, it wasn't like there was some issues that weren't necessarily between me and him, but just how things should have been done. It should be done like this. There wasn't just us. You know, for the Jabuni album, eventually we went to Amir Qasemi, who also added some songs and some with a lyricist, Paxima. That's where we got introduced to Paxima and Schubert. And he has a lot to do with the success of that album too, I have to say. But yeah, not so much conflict between, no regabat, I would say. More like, you know, we should have handled this situation like this. You should have handled that situation like that. Yeah.
And you wouldn't, there wasn't like sort of a, oh my God, Dad, leave me alone, like I'm my own guy. You guys, it was
No.
harmonious for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
credit to him and you. And how did he feel about your shaggy blonde boy band locks? How did he feel about your hair?
You know what? He would borrow my clothes sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't get me
Thing
wrong.
is, he
You were
made me
very
take my
cute.
nose
You're
ring
very
off.
cute. I don't want to I want you to get the wrong impression. You were very cute at that time. I'm not taking it away from you. I'm just wondering how the iconic dad felt about it.
No, he didn't have a problem with it. But I mean, there were some places where he would say, hit the brake, you know, not, don't go that far. Um, there was a thing about um, I mean, when you have an actress, for example, in your music video, how much does this culture accept or not accept? Maybe this is too much. There was stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mohammed, I want to play a song that you and your dad did together called AD. What can
Oh,
you
yeah.
what do you tell us about that?
That one, the lyrics were written by Mina Jalali, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we sang that together, and that's one of the great songs. That's one of the great songs that we did together. It's always every aid. It's there. I see it around. It's تو هدیه دل منی. That's all it is. تو هدیه دل منی. When did we record that? I'm thinking, is it after my heart surgery? We
I
immediately
think it was
did record
before. I think it was
it before.
2005. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm wrong then. Sorry. Sorry.
Not that I know your story, your history better than you, but I think in this case I might be right. I'm not sure.
Yo, you're right. You're right. Iran Bonu. It's in the Iran Bonu album.
Let's play a little
Yeah.
bit of AD. This is Habib Death.
اگه بیای کنار تو بهارا باور میکنم هرچی گل بهاریه پیش تو پر میکنم اگه بیای پنجرمو به روی گل وا میکنم عطر دل گم شدمو دوباره پیدا میکنم تو هدیه دل منی که داری از راه میرسی تو آسمون دل من عزیزتر از ماه میرسی تو هدیه دل منی که داری از راه میرسی تو آسمون دل من عزیزتر از ماه میرسی
A taste of the song AD,
Yeah.
Habib
Yeah.
and Muhammad from 2005. You know, it occurs to me like I certainly in Persian music, I can't think of a lot of father and son or parent and child you know, hugely successful duo. I mean, I know Reza Rohani and his dad have done some performances together, but nothing quite like this. And even in music in general, I mean, it's pretty hard to, I think McCartney and his son did something at some point, or Jay-Z and Blue Ivy. I don't know. There's not a lot out there. What was the audience like for this? Was there like a young contingent who would come for you and an older one for your dad?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember scenes like that. I remember scenes like that. But most the young ones, they knew my dad. They knew my dad. Their parents were there. Yeah. It was kind of like a complete show because it covered everyone. Yeah.
You alluded to it a second ago, Mohammed. In 2000, I guess it's 2006, maybe you're playing in Dubai, and you end up needing surgery for, from what I understand, a childhood congenital heart issue, and I guess you need to go to Iran for treatment. Um, that would have been scary for all kinds of reasons in terms of what's happening to your body. But tell me about that whole experience of going to Iran at that point.
Maybe it was 2008.
Okay.
Oh yeah, maybe it was 2008. We were in Dubai and we had been there for a few months and I was sick. I had other issues going on. There was a colon, there's an infection going on in that area, which wasn't healing. Overall, I was not feeling well. I remember having fevers and just staying home. It was just, what's the word? Convulsions. Yeah. It was, I was not well. And when I would go to the doctor, we go to emergency room like twice a week, maybe. And there was a few times I remember they did my heart and they're like, he needs to see a heart doctor. And it had been a while since I stopped seeing a cardiologist just because like it was an annual since I was a kid. I thought it's not a big deal. So my heart had gotten enlarged, and I guess this was stressing everything else and doing its normal thing. So it was so bad that I couldn't come back to the States. So me and my mom, we got on a plane and we went to Iran. And immediately right there, I remember they took my passport away. I was, first of all, I was medicated. And I was, when you're close to death, some people at least, everything you just see positive, nothing really matters. And you try to see everything positive. And so I remember my mom was like, when we were in the room with the guy who took my passport and just asking questions, she looked at me, he's like, boy, man, to kuja avardam, like that. And I asked the guy, I said, "ببخشید آقا, شلاق داره الان شما مثلا من رو به شلاق گفت نه شلاق نداره. Worse than anything. I looked at my mom and said شلاق نداره. But it was, in a way, it was one of the best times in my life, maybe I could say, because I survived. I was with my family. I saw some of my family there in Tehran and traveled with Habib's family that I always heard about. I remember the first time went out in the streets to drive. You know, the bricks with the yellow small bricks. Iran is famous for it. I saw those and with painting on them, and just everyone was Iranian, and it felt really like a feeling I'd never had before. It was also one of the worst times of my life, of course, just because, you know, having to go to those interrogations was not a big deal, but being in the hospital and when I was recovering, could you imagine, like, you're in ICU and people are coming in and talking to you, taking pictures, jumping on your bed. So yeah,
So, I mean, to clarify, your dad doesn't go with you, right? It's you and your mom who
no,
go.
just me and my mom. Just me and
And
my mom.
were you surprised that you were getting interrogated? I mean, you're just this kid who's basically growing up in America. I mean, was that part shocking for you?
Yeah, the first interrogation, I remember we went, it was this street called Afriqa, and it was a building that has no windows, just, you know, big, what is it? It's like no windows. And we went inside, and at that time, it happens every once in a while. Lights turn off, you know, in different sections, just to conserve energy. Lights turned off too. So imagine being in a building with no windows and the lights are off. So yeah, we were waiting. There was a few other people waiting too. And then finally it was my turn. I went inside. There was two guys. And it was obvious later, you know, one of them was playing good cop, one of them was playing bad cop. And the first thing the guy said, he yelled. He yelled so loud that my mom said she could hear outside. "تو اینجا چیکار می‌کنی? چرا اومدی اینجا? What are you doing here? You know, why did you come here?" And I just said, "Well, I'm sick, you know, and I came for see the doctor and stuff like." Just, you know, it was weird because like they kept repeating questions. The guy that was a good cop, he looked like he's doing algebra on a paper. I don't know, maybe it was like truth tests and stuff.
And
It was weird.
it was clear they knew. I mean, a stupid question probably, but they knew who you were, right? I mean, they
Oh
knew.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember the guy said, you know, your father. It was weird, you know, different extremes, and maybe it was different interrogation. But he said, when if your father comes here, you know, we're gonna immediately arrest him and take him to jail. I'm like, okay, I'll tell him that. And
Well,
then same guy, I don't know if it was the next thing or that one. He said, yeah, if your father comes here, you know, or any artist, and they're here for 2 years and, you know, probation, and they go through the process, they can get permission to perform in Iran. So he said that, and he said that. I was just like, okay,
well,
make
I
up
mean,
your mind.
in terms of the interrogations and the hardship, um, it's interesting that it's a year later that Habib, your dad, decides to chooses to go back to Iran in
Yeah, within
2009,
there.
and that's a decision that will not just define that will kind of define his final years, and it could not have been an easy decision, and it could not have been something that your mom would have taken lightly either. Um, what how can you best describe why he made that decision?
It's, you know, it's, first of all, his sister was sick. He's been wanting to go see his sister for a while. My mom would go and come every once in a while, and, you know, that kind of made my father, like, you know, left out. Um, and me going and surviving all that BS, I guess, you know, kind of made him think, okay, you know, let me go try it out. You know, it's not, he risked it. I mean, he was brave. That's all I can say. He was brave.
Did
When
you try and prevent him from going?
No, I didn't. My mom did. I remember she said, "Habib, میدونی داری چیکار میکنی?" I didn't. I don't remember preventing him. No,
Do you
I don't
regret
remember that. Huh? I was recovering still, probably.
do you regret not trying to stop him somehow?
Oh, totally. Totally. You know, totally. Yeah.
شب و روز من یکی بود گریه هام از بی کسی بود دستای تو رو میخواستم اینجا جات خیلی خالی بود قدر تو بیشتر میدونم حالا که برگشتی.
What happens when he gets to Iran?
So when he gets to Iran, they take his passport like they did to me. You become Mamnu Khuruj because you can't leave the country. They have your passport. And in order to get that passport, you have to go through whatever process they have for you. You don't know how long it's going to take. They confiscate his computer there. And just bad treatment. He got his computer back, yeah, a while later, maybe 7-8 months. It was returned back. I messed up computer. And while that was happening, I guess towards the end, you know, people find out you're there, this, that. There's always people that come forward and try to help you and this and that. Some of them with good intention and some of them with bad intention. So he ran into a few people that said, you know, you can, you know, this is happening, there's progress, and we can get permission for you, mujabas for you. You really don't have to do much. Just be here and we'll, you know, take care of everything else. And that's where it started. Yeah. And within the first year, a year and a half, he realized that this is bullshit. And he told me I don't need to come back anymore because even when I went back while he was there after that incident of the heart surgery, again, you know, I was made Mamnu Khuruj and I had to go through this whole process. They don't even know what they're doing themselves, you know, when you go to these offices and try to deal with them.
And you were going to visit him at this point then, right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, that was the last time I saw him.
Which is when?
2010 or 2011. Yeah, 2010 or 11. Wow. 10 maybe was the last time I saw him.
A few years before he died.
Yeah.
How do you how would you describe, how would you characterize his final years in Iran?
You know, it was difficult for me seeing this because first of all, after that, within that year and a half, you know, he said some stuff, he did some stuff which jeopardized his situation there. In an interview with Bahman Babazadeh, he said, "Man be khater e'tiqad qalbim," which means because of the beliefs in my heart, I don't need your mujabas. And that came out. And he remained quiet. You know, he didn't remain quiet, meaning he didn't say anything. He didn't talk to anyone. All the gossip and stuff that would come out on the media from all sides, from outside Iran, saying, "Oh, look, he went there. He's gonna do a concert." From inside Iran, they just kept using his name for different stuff. Yeah, this is happening, that's happening. It's going through an Ershad process. There's going to be a concert in Chiz Azadi. Like, he didn't know about any of it. You know, I would call him, there's emails, I would email him, "Do you know about this?" He's like, "Khodam khabar nadaram." So when he comes on stage in Musique Ma, they had a thing that they brought him finally after that time. He goes on stage and he says, "After 6 years of silence, I finally could say something."
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't belong in this front row because they had sat him in the front row. He says, I always like to be in the back. And I thought this reward or this award is for myself. You know, I've done nothing. I've done nothing to get such a reward. But it was obviously for someone else. He said, I thought it was for me. I have done nothing. And he said a few other stuff, and he ends it with a poem. And anyone who sees that could see what, you know, he went through. And yeah.
Needless to say, he can't, you know, he can't put out albums, he can't tour, he can't. What makes this both more tragic and more infuriating somehow is that it's not like, I mean, I would perhaps describe him, you tell me if this works, as quietly defiant, or he spoke through his lyrics sometimes, but it's not like Habib is leading marches or, you know, out there, you know, animatedly an activist against the regime. So it's all the more damning, isn't it?
Well, he has criticized them in different interviews in the past. And of course, yeah, his main outlet is his music. But yeah, that's how it was.
Mohammed, I know it's probably not the easiest thing to talk about, but I've obviously got to ask you, you're in the States when your dad dies. Tell me about his death.
So yeah, that morning I wake up, and you know, first thing I saw, first of all, was a photo of him on the ground of the mortuary with sheets wrapped around him. So later to find out that the Ostandar of Mazandaran, either the current Ostandar of that time or the former Ostandar, they're mullahs, they're all mullahs, gave permission or ordered the mortuary to open their doors because his son worked for ISNA, one of their, I can't say the name because I can't remember, one of their internet magazines that posted this picture for the first time. So right immediately when he died, they, you know, did what they do. And I immediately, you know, had to go there because my mom was there. I, you know, started going after getting my passport done. They ordered my mom to immediately bury him. He was not allowed, not just to Fete Honarmandan Behesht Zahra, but he was not allowed to be taken to his birthplace. You know, that's how it is in tradition. You're supposed to, you know, they take you to your birthplace to get buried. He was not allowed that. They came to my mom's house while I wasn't there, and you know, just, I guess you could say, nice way of threatening. When are you going to bury him? You know, I remember my mom saying, he's not a cucumber. I can't bury him right now. And when I got there, oh yeah, so that morning, I remember I went out. I was just in the streets walking, and VOA called me.
Sorry, Mohammed, are you find out by seeing this picture?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I saw a few condolences on my messages, and when I saw that, I immediately went to Facebook and Instagram, and just I saw the pictures. That's the first thing I saw. It was everywhere.
And just before we leave, I mean, tell me about that moment.
You know, when I saw that, I thought they killed him, and whoa, I can't even describe. And I would see different links posting this picture. It was everywhere, and writing, if you want to see how Habib suffered, click this link. You know, and I would click it, and I would find out if someone wanted to advertise their phone this, if someone wanted to advertise that. So yeah, it was a nightmare.
بباره برف سنگین بر مزارش بباره برف بباره این برف غمگین بر مزارش به من میگفت برفا دوست داره به من میگفت اگه آروم
After I got there, so yeah, VOA called me while I was here, and they asked me a question about Ahmadinejad, this, that, and I gave an answer, which, you know, after that phone call, I didn't answer anyone else's phone call because I immediately got a call saying, don't speak to any of these, you know, stations because you're gonna have a problem when you come back. So when I got back, you know, and I met my mother.
To Iran, you mean?
I would get phone calls saying to come to such and such place. I got many phone calls. By the third or fourth phone call, they started saying, again, you know, it means we'll retrieve you in some other way if you don't comply. And I didn't go. I didn't go to any of them. We kind of complained through sources that, you know, we had close, like, what is this? You know, I'm mourning. I don't even know what's going on. And they want, you know, and really it's like you're so busy and all this stuff happening around you, and they want me to go sit down somewhere and talk to them about what, you know? So eventually that first time I got out in peace. But everything we wanted to do was clamped down. You can't do this, you can't do that. I had to go to the mortuary where they forced him to be buried, and I had to do adai ihtaram, you know, for the graves of the shaheeds, you know, so they don't get mad at my father being buried there. And it's just a whole ridiculous shit show. And, you know, I had a background in growing up here, you know, going after Islam and stuff, and I know how to give the azan and stuff like that. And I remember they knew this, and they said, yeah, you should come and give the azan. It was the 40th, or it was Eid al-Fitr. It's Chehlom Eid al-Fitr. If you want the Chehlom to happen, you should come in this morning and give azan. And you know, I didn't have a problem with doing that, but I think they use that in their advantage as well. But yeah,
It just sounds horrible. I mean, it sounds like, I'm so sorry.
You know, it was just it was hell. It was hell.
How do you, I mean, as a person, how do you react in these situations? Do you cry? Are you someone who gets angry? Do you start yelling? Do you turtle? Do you just go in the corner of a room and how does Muhammad, I mean, tell me about your own reactions to all of this.
You know, that first time, no, I surrendered to everything because I have to, you know, be there for my mom. You have to be the strongest you can be. That's the only choice. You have no other choice but to be the strongest you can be and just remain quiet to everything because, you know, I just didn't have time for any bullshit. That was the first time. And the last time I went was at the beginning of COVID. Again, you know, I wanted to, it was kind of a scary situation. Oh my God, what's going on in Iran? I wanted to be there for my mom. And that was the last time I went there. Again, when I entered the airport, they took my passport and they made me sit. I had to sit for at least an hour and a half maybe, until these two guys came, and then they sat down, just starting asking me all this random question. There, I lost it. You know, I remember losing it there. Oh yeah, where did I lose it? So yeah, this is bullshit. I was answering them aggressively because I didn't have time, and the guy kept saying, "Oh, you know, why are you taking it so? Why am I taking it so seriously? Why are you wasting my time amongst so much other bullshit you make everyone go through?" So then they took me to a phone. My cell phone didn't work because it's the airport. I don't know the number of the person outside. So many things. So they took me to a phone to call the people outside to ask my address because I don't know where I'm staying, you know, etc. So I get their phone. This is in the middle of, you know, the beginning of COVID, where Iran is the most dangerous if you remember, one of the most dangerous places.
Yeah.
And I'm holding this dirty phone you know? And I look at them and I'm like, الان موقع کووید ها این تلفن رو داری میده دست من. And one of them said, no, there's no COVID here. I took the phone, I threw it at the wall. I said, eat whatever shit you want to eat. And I went and sat down and put my feet on the table. What happened after that? They called. Yeah, they took the number and they called themselves to get the address.
You're lucky you didn't get.
So I can. Yeah, I was lucky.
Yeah.
I was lucky.
Lucky.
But they kept calling me after that as well. They kept calling. We want to see you. They kept calling, but it was difficult to want to see them because they kept closing the borders of the Ostan states to each other because of COVID again. Traveling restrictions because of COVID. Wow.
There's a lot of people who pine to go and see Iran. People like me who can't for political reasons, etc. And then there's people who go and say, "Oh my God, it's so great! It's like luxury, and I stayed in 5-star hotel and all this kind of stuff, or whatever." Or they just describe that it's really beautiful and they love going there. You'd be in the category of not a fan, right? You don't.
No.
You're not enamored of Iran at this point.
No. I mean, I don't understand what's so. Yeah, I had a cousin who, this last time actually, who kept telling me, yeah, you know, when you have money in Tehran, there's you can do this, you can do that, there's this, and I'm just looking at him. It's like, you know, you really don't know what you're talking about, because again, it's Iran. You have these zombies on top of you everywhere. Even in their good times, like, you know, they're try to put on a good face, like during Khatami's time. They're still zombies, you know, in hibernation, and they shouldn't be in that position of owning the country and your life and everything. And again, it's surrounded by that lack of culture, which is again because of them, because of their presence. So yeah, it's not. Even when I used to go in the beginning and I was having a good time, like, this place is not that bad, you know. My relatives would say, "You haven't lived here. You haven't lived here yet."
Your mom has chosen to stay in Iran.
Yeah.
Is that hard for you?
Yes, of course it is. That's just how dedicated she feels to my father. She's kind of been the, I don't find a better word, protector of his mausoleum there, which has been vandalized twice so far. It's yeah, it's difficult for her.
Who would vandalize his grave?
Well, it's people that the Hayat Omana of that mosque, same people who tell me to come and do Adai Ehtaram for the graves of Basijis or whoever it might be. There's cameras there, and when we asked them to bring out these cameras so we could see who it is, they wouldn't. So it's obvious that last time when they destroyed the lights around it, that was about a couple of years ago. It was right after I gave out a video on my Instagram account. One of their people said, "Oh, you know, Iranians could come back, artists could come back, you know, you're all welcome," and stuff. And I couldn't help it, you know. This was after the last time I came back. So I gave it a video, and then Iran International, they reposted this video, which got a lot of attention on social media at that time. It happened within a week after that, I believe.
Interesting.
Within a week or two.
بیا ای بانوی گلها، ای چشات به رنگ دریا، بیا ای خاتون قلبا، چو موهات سیاه شب
Mohammed, I'm sure you've been asked about this. Your dad's name has been back in the news to a certain extent in Iranian circles because Moeen, the famous Iranian musician singer, uh, said that he wanted to go back to Iran, and from what I understand, the regime responded with some, outlandish kind of statement that we're going to put you in jail then for 20 years or something. Have you been asked about that, and have you been in touch with Moeen, or do you have any sort of words about
No,
that?
I got contacted from BBC and VOA. I did interviews with them, talking about my father's experience and whether it's the right thing to do. I don't think Moin. I don't know, but I don't think he himself inquired this. I mean, everyone wants to go back, obviously. I don't think Moin would want to go back after the incidents of what we all saw, and we're still in a revolution.
Yeah.
It was a lady who asked the Vizier of Ershad, and his response was, "Of course, this is all Iranians could come back," and da 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 da. And then she said, "What about singing?" And then he said, "Yeah, if they go through the process, the same process of killing your art." And then someone else said, "Yeah, if he comes, he has at least 27 years of prison sentence." So that's what it is. It's just a big chaotic mess of everyone saying what they want to say, and it's just just chaos. Remember chaos and control?
As ever,
That's what
as
Mark
ever, everything is chaos. Oh, it's always chaos.
is.
Unfortunately. And by the way, I mean, you have been warned. I mean, you said it in one of your interviews in Persian that you were warned to not do interviews in recent years. Tell me what's changed your mind to do something like this today, and knowing that you have family in Iran, etc.
Well, while my father was in Iran and alive, obviously I couldn't do interviews. I did do one at that time with Amir Wasami, and I was kind of, you know, you kind of can't say everything, so it's like, why have an interview if I can't say anything? And if it was in one of the TVs like VOA, or one of the ones that show what's going on, it probably would have been more of an issue. Um, so that's during that time, and also don't stop giving out videos too. And then after my father passed away, same thing. you know I accidentally answered the phone that morning and it was VOA. So yeah, while I was going and coming, there's no way you can have um, interviews with TVs here and go and come in peace. So it was that.
So have you decided you're not going back at all now?
Well, yeah, I mean, after I gave out that video where they vandalized my father's tomb, after that was kind of that sealed it for me.
Right.
Right there. Before that, I had kind of been critical too, but very softly, very softly. But now it's a different stage. It's a different level. Um, we're in a revolution,
And
and
I should commend you
it's
because
just going forward. It's
you
just going forward.
yeah, and I should commend you because you've been um tremendously active and I dare say inspirational. You've a couple of songs you've put out that have been very popular, and in terms of supporting the uprising and being outspoken and being there for women, life, freedom, and all of that. And I say that partly on an episode titled "The Legacy of Habib" because there is an intersection for you, and you've said that you feel your father's songs, even now, a few years after his death, and in some cases, many decades after they were recorded, are more relevant than ever these days,
Totally.
in the days of the uprising. Tell us about that.
I mean, even before the uprising, I mean, I have uh, fans of my father from Iran who make videos and send it to me. And after the uprising too, it's just, everyone relates to his songs, and they would take Bezan Bon and put it on, you know, um, events of right now. Everything, yeah, all those songs that he sang, they're all happening. And they've been happening, but now it's at a time where we all see each other, and we all realize that, you know, we're all fed up and we all see each other. And it's never been like that. And that is because of Massa that happened. And yeah, again, these songs are eternal. These lyrics are eternal. The Islamic Republic is just a nightmare that it also describes.
What do you miss most about your dad?
That's difficult to say. Everything. He was very funny. He had not meaning to be. He was just, yeah. Yeah, his lines, he would say the funniest things sometimes. I just miss him. Yeah. Which part? But a few days ago, I was remembering something about saying fun. I get a haircut. I get it every couple of weeks. And I was remembering once I got a haircut, and when I came home, my dad, he looked at me. This is the kind of jokes we would have with each other. Of course, it was always him. He looked at me and he said, "Jaya Pash Rushunahate." And I just looked at him. I'll never forget. It was like when I was an early teenager. I looked at him. I was like maybe 15, 16, 17. And it took me a minute to get it, you know. But I started laughing. He was just like, and he was pretty funny. He was a good father.
I really appreciate this today. I'm really glad to be able to do this in English and to have some document and of talking about your dad and to have you do it. It's been very special, and I really appreciate you putting the time and going to that place. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for the questions you ask, and thank you because this is the first time I get to speak about them in English.
And I want you to come back on and talk about religion one day. We got to talk about we have to talk about Islam.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that as well.
There sure is. You just mentioned Bezan Bon. I want to go out on that. Thank you again, Mohamad. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully before too long.
Thank you. Take care.
Merci. Khodafez.
Khodafez.
بزن باران بهاران فصل خون است بزن باران که صحرا لاله گون است بزن باران که به چشمان یار جهان تاریک و دریا واژگون است بزن باران که به چشمان یار جهان تاریک